All right. Hi, this is Sam from Newton Public Library. I'm here with Nathan Carr, our IT supervisor, and we've got a guest as well, Lindsay Young. Many of you are readers, I'm sure, of Lindsay's recipe column in Newton Now and several other newspapers. I'll turn it over to Nathan now. I'm going to be talking about recipe sites and apps. So take it away, Nathan.
All right.
One other thing. Yeah, I'll just say if you're watching this on Facebook Live, just type any comments or questions you have in the chat, and I will read them to Lindsay and Nathan, so it can be interactive that way.
All right. So top 20 culinary sites and apps. Hopefully you'll see that screen up there. And so we do these classes. We've pretty much always done them to where you can log in online and watch them. But since COVID, you don't have the option of coming into the library anymore. But times are changing. Perhaps next month we'll actually have some humans in the room. But as it is, we have an expert to help us out here. Lindsay, what can you tell us about your world with the culinary?
Well, I've been writing my column for the newspaper since I think it was 2013. I figured out, and so for me, it is prohibitive to have that many cookbooks in my house. So the web has been a great asset for me. Also, I think everybody'd get bored if I just worked my way through one cookbook. So it's given me an opportunity to try a lot of new things and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a huge proponent of recipes on the web.
For me, I'm the kind of cook that goes looking in the kitchen. I'm a scrounger. So I go, I've got ham, I got tomatoes, I got potatoes, I got noodles. What do we have for recipes? Right. And that's the way I cook. My wife, she'll have something specifically in mind, and she can't cook it unless we have everything involved, and I have to make 3 trips to Dillon's or Kroger. So it's just different types of cooks. I also do a lot of camping kind of cooking. I like that. I like to use a lot of fire. Yeah, that's been my experience with cooking as far as I like to use web pages because I can search for specific ingredients instead of having to leaf through books and books, which of course, I do have like a 2-tier shelf system worth of cookbooks in my house. And, ones that my mom would put together, like for my high school graduation, she put together a bunch of cards and Betty Crocker books that have been folded over with time that I inherited and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of what my cook book stuff looks like. There we go. So boilerplate slides I like to put in here for every single one because the reasons why you want to go to the library, right? You're logged in here because you want to do research on learning more about cooking, right? And so we've got physical locations that normally you could visit. We've got human beings you can talk to. We've got robust content, which means we've got access to Google, of course. We've got experience doing specific Google search terms, but we've also got access to white papers from colleges and a lot of databases that aren't necessarily normally available just by searching on the web. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to do your research with us instead of necessarily just Googling it. Please, whenever you do anything on the internet, do your updates, Windows updates, operating system updates, antivirus, anti-spyware, firewall, all the above before you really spend any time searching around and going to any of these websites, because one little letter, one way or the other, .com instead of .co, and you're not in the neighborhood you were looking for. You're in a completely different website. Ask my history professor who told us to go to whitehouse.com. No, it's .gov. It's .gov, the whole school. Yeah, we all. Yeah, that was a mess. So I asked around on Facebook, and everybody made recommendations. And starting out with our library director here, she recommends Jenny Can Cook, the YouTube channel, specifically this one bowl chocolate cake recipe. Marianne likes to bring in a treat every month, and so this is one of her favorites. It's pretty straightforward. Jenny Can Cook. And yeah, it's that old talk show host. I don't know if you ever saw Jenny Jones.
Mm-hmm.
not really gonna have us watch the whole video, but this is kind of, she's just cooking. It's what she does. So
Everybody needs a good dump cake recipe.
there you go. I ran across, when I was doing this research for this, I ran across like genres, different places that typically have a lot of recipes, like culinary schools, professional chefs, like ones that are trying to get their name out, recipe databases where they just give us all of your recipes and we'll share them. And if we hate on the bad ones and love the good ones, companies that sell cooking devices, like the Instapot or Ball kind of pressure canning kind of stuff, magazines that have recipe sections, blogs. A lot of the blogs are like the professional chefs or individuals that want to get into being professional chefs, I suppose, or people like Lindsay. Do you have a blog, Lindsay?
I do. Yeah, I've got a website. It's spiceupkitchen.net. So I've been uploading.
Well, hey, get that down along the bottom there. Picture websites, Pinterest. A lot of people, you get done with a particularly good pot roast, or a lot of guys. There was a picture of who was a couple of actors. They're looking at a picture on the phone. It's like two dads looking at their weekend ribs. So take pictures, kind of a little bit of proud because you spent time smoking those ribs. There's the video site, YouTube, where a lot of times they do like tutorials like the one we just mentioned, and apps to where you can just install the app. It'll be more straightforward than going to the website and search around a bit. And sometimes it'll load the recipes onto your phone so you don't have to worry about having internet signal, when you're out on the campsite. So here's the overview, right, of a lot of the websites that I'm planning on mentioning, because a lot of my presentations aren't necessarily the type where people go back later and watch the whole thing. A lot of times they'll just download the slides and flip through and remember, yes, that's the one he mentioned, and go on with life. And so some people will get presentations where they have a picture of a puppy and a fence and a picture of a picture, and that's their presentation. And they say that's the best way to do it. That's just not the way these go. So, Lindsay, you want to guys give us a little overview of the ones you mentioned here?
Yeah, I mean, I think these three are probably the ones that I find myself going back to, and not always on purpose. Like I'll be on Pinterest kind of scrolling through, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that looks amazing. And then I realize, oh, that's another Sally's baking addiction. Like, so I have to sometimes watch myself that I don't just parrot all of their stuff. But yeah, all three of those are just phenomenal, like at great directions, beautiful photos, and easy normally to do too, which is nice.
Right on. That's great that it just comes across as the natural selections, the best recipes that you like happen to be from these three. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we pump through the slides I've done, we can go and visit those and maybe give us some tips on how to use those.
If I did it right, I think they're at the end, so I think they're in there.
Oh, great.
If I did it right.
So AllRecipes, largest digital food site as far as what they say, 61 million home cooks, billion recipe pages, cooking articles per year. First launched in 1997. So when it comes to websites, 1997 is pretty early. I mean, I remember paying for long distance fees so that I could do dial-up internet so I could learn how to make my first web page. And so 97 was, that's pretty early. So they've also got digital print and magazine. So they've got a lot of things going on with them. Food Network, another huge one, right? 100 million U.S. homes, draws 46 million unique web users monthly, around since 2009. So this one's kind of a baby compared to the other one. But they've got magazines and videos, and they're out there all over the place. So they're also linked with Discovery and Oprah. So young but huge.
Yes.
Food.com, kind of their kind of linked to Food Network, but they're the ones that I saw. The slight difference between is that they got teams within from Food Network as far as the way I perceived it. 500,000 dishes created by users, so they submit their own and they tweak them and add photos and whatnot. Kitchen, Kitchn. So careful on your spelling, folks, on this one. 2005, another fairly young one. They got a companion site, but Kate Gillingham? Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
So this one is kind of, one person is kind of the lead on this one. So this is one of those instances where it's a kind of a, the name is what you're going for. So just more information about kitchen. I'm trying to flip through so we can get to Lindseys' good stuff. 17 million readers. Yummily. I really like this one.
Mm-hmm.
So their mission is to be the smartest and most helpful food platform in existence. That's kind of a, that's like right up there with Google, don't be evil. So I like that. 2 million recipes, 26 million users. The app rating is way up there. So this is one of those where there's an app and it interacts pretty well. I didn't have any issues loading the app. It ran pretty good for me. Do you use the app at all, Lindsay?
I don't use the app, but I definitely have run across more than one of their recipes in the past too. So.
And I use Linux. Just Android. I don't use Apple.
Me too.
So if anybody's using Apple, I don't know how that runs. It's being Apple, so it probably runs just fine because they do a lot of quality checking. That's part of the end-to-end control of Apple's world. Chowhound. This was a lot of fun because they've got a lot of things going on at once. I like that. 2006 and relaunched in 2015 as chowhound.com. It's one of those things where you kind of change the name and change ownerships a little bit. But I like that one a lot. So the manifesto, it's a little different. So everyone has one in their life. The brother-in-law with a collection of 800 takeout menus because they had to trek down one item from one end of town and go to the whole other side. So they're out for the experience for the individual item. They're not trying to just grab food. They're not foodies. Foodies eat what they're told. Chowhounds bleeds trails for culinary treasure. They despise hype and they appreciate the ambao. Well, I have a picture over the top of it. But yeah, so that's Chowhound. It's a really interesting idea that they want to make every single bite count. They'd rather grow weak from hunger than let somebody eat something less than delicious. So it's a pretty big manifesto. I think that speaks a lot for the website. Granted, from when I was looking around, because of how into the food they are, there's a lot of stuff on there that I can't get hold of here. Without having to go to Amazon and do special orders of German branded, mustard.
Yeah, it's funny. Some of the ones that are more based, especially on the coasts, I think they've got a lot more access to exotic things than we do in the middle of the country. So sometimes you have to get creative.
They got a name brand soy-free version of something. It's just not something I have access to, and that's not what they're about. So they're okay with the extra expense, the extra difficulty level. It's kind of stuff my wife would be into, right? Because she wants it to be exactly as per the recipe. Meanwhile, I'm over there going, dash of that, a little bit of this. Hey, that'll work. Squirt of that. But she's freaking out in the corner because everything has to be perfectly measured and weighed and chopped precisely in the picture. It's not the way I work. Epicurious. They did not respond to me. They didn't have a lot for me at all. And so this is what they get. they get a side mention. They might be huge, but they're too good for me. So Simply Recipes, they weren't too good. They talked a lot to me. They emailed back and forth. I like that a lot. They're obsessed with recipes that you will love. So just because of the interaction level, I would say please check out Simply Recipes because they know how to do customer response. Yeah, I really put down a lot of stuff that you guys can flip through because I'm really trying to pop through these things so we can get to Lindseys part. Betty Crocker, staple. This is what, a book that you give as a gift and that will stay on their shelves. You put a little addendum in there and year and everything else, and the book is better with time and little cards. Mine died. I had one of those cards with the metal top and it just, the paper got brittle and crunchy and I don't know. But the book stayed forever so far. I mean, 16 years of marriage and the book is still great. But cards, I don't know. Did you have any of the, what I'm talking about with the cards?
I didn't have the cards, but I've definitely got a book on my shelf. So that's always one to, if you see it that's where it's from, you're like, oh, okay, this will be a good recipe. I'll try it.
Betty Crocker, they know their stuff. They've been doing it a long time. Yeah, 12 million visitors each month. America's first lady of food. And there's this whole huge backstory with the Betty Crocker. And they love to tell you about the backstory. About the lady in the picture. 63 million cookbooks have been published. So, yep. Common Sense Home. So this one is, so I really like camping and survival and stuff like that and canning and this is not type of stuff that everybody's going to be into at all. But they really get into how long to store things and how to store things. And it really comes in handy when when my wife whines about what I've done in the basement with these cans and labels and dates and everything else until, come February, I tell her, yeah, let's do a Costco run. And then we're going to be stuck at home here for a couple months. So, sometimes every dog has his day or 3 months that things like this are very useful to people. And so.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this one, but I am intensely intrigued by making cottage cheese. That sounds interesting. I would try that.
Cheeses, because right now, all of a sudden on Facebook, there's all these places where you can get raw milk, and these little small backyard farms and things like that they're trying to find other ways to get rid of a whole pig. Buy a pig, how to slaughter it yourself because they can't, because all the butchers, they're booked. I mean, they're booked till next year, kind of booked. So the only way to sell these things is to individuals, and same with the milk. And so we're entering a different kind of life, and so this is one way to try and survive with a big full belly.
Yeah, it's the best way.
So real simple. This is my kind of thing right here. Simple. So they've got recipes, cooking tips and techniques, tools, shopping and storing, and real simple cooking school. So more than just recipes, they got a school. So when they start telling to use a teaspoon versus a tablespoon, you can go through and watch little things and figure out more about what they're really talking about there. And then you have to go on a shopping trip to find a teaspoon or a tablespoon and the scales and all the stuff. But Serious Eats, 2006, passionate, discerning, curious, kind of fancy stuff. They bring a democratic yet scientific approach to cooking the best dishes, busting food myths, and delivering strong opinions on what you should eat next, where, when, and why. I spent way too much time playing with the food myths part where they were on the website. A lot of stuff I actually really believed. They say that there's two types of a mushroom hunter, the brave and the old, because the brave don't survive to be old. but they got a whole lot of tips on fritters, how to pick them and which ones, how to cook them. So back in experimentation with the American Girl doll cookbooks, fraud in the seafood industry. So seriously, it has a lot of entertaining stuff going on besides just recipes.
I read this. Oh, I read the story about the fraud in the seafood industry. It was actually a high school student who had the idea of doing DNA tests on a bunch of commercial seafood and finding out that a big percentage of it wasn't actually the species that it was being marketed as. So that was pretty kind of a high school gumshoe type thing. That was pretty cool.
Like dolphin instead of salmon kind of stuff?
I don't think it was dolphin, but just less expensive fish than they said, that kind of thing.
Relying on our food distribution networks and trusting them completely, it's easy for us to do, whereas 300 years ago, a lot of times ketchup was just there so that you can stomach mostly bad meat. Pioneer woman, a lot of people love her. My wife doesn't, but Ray, she's obsessed with butter and Ethel Merman, and so that's about all I have to say about.
She lives near here. Well, you could take a road trip, like a day trip, to see her place, right, from here. Does she live in Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, my mom was like, "Oh, we need to go down there and see the Pioneer Woman's place." So maybe we'll do that sometime.
Yeah, and you can eat at a restaurant, right there, right?
I think they were opening a shop at one point. I don't follow her too close. I will say her apple dumplings recipe is the best. I highly recommend. And it's easy, so.
Kind of like the dump cake?
Yeah. Because you're using canned crescent rolls and there's some Mountain Dew in it. It's a little weird, but amazing.
Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
I know I did the beer chicken thing one time.
Oh, yeah.
A can of beer, but it didn't explode, so that was good.
I've never tried it because that's my worry is that I would do something wrong and
Explosive chicken.
Blow up the kitchen.
I've never deep fat fried a turkey because I've heard the oil boiling over and then catching on fire. And no thanks.
Yeah.
In Boy Scouts, we would spit roast the turkey for all day long and slather barbecue sauce on it all day long. And of course, chunks would fall off as you're cooking it. And we would all get sick from eating way too much barbecue sauce. But that's worked for me. Copycat recipes. So you ever wonder how to make Olive Garden breadsticks or the dressing? It's got 2,000 different recipes. I didn't try any of them. I don't know. It sounds like a lot of fun, but that's not my kind of cooking. So I don't know. Lindsay, ever?
I haven't gone on copycat, but I have done some. I've definitely made the pasta fagioli soup that was based off of Olive Garden's recipe, and that was awesome. And one of my other favorite copycats is making homemade Butterfingers, which you do by melting down candy corn and you combine it with peanut butter and then you coat it in chocolate, and it tastes exactly like a Butterfinger. It's amazing.
Finally, a use for that 8-year-old candy corn that's been
right. No, it's great because it's all on sale after Halloween and Thanksgiving. I'll just buy it and then I make Butterfingers.
I always thought it came stale. I didn't notice any difference in 8 years versus present.
It might be the same candy corn every year. I don't know, but
they just stick it in different bags, maybe, so it's a different day.
I'm slowly whittling down the world's supply, one or two bags a year.
I was watching it's Southern Y'all. It was one of those videos, Southern thing, where he said that they haven't made new Tootsie Rolls since 1972. It's still the same supply. As far as I know, that could very well be true but Tootsie Roll I would take over candy corn any day.
Yeah.
So down at the bottom, it does say no special equipment should be used. I agree with that, just in general, ever. But here we go. Tasty.co, not tasty.com. So this is Tasty is kind of a BuzzFeed off-branch to where they have several different chefs and they're doing different shows and some very interesting stuff. I really like the guy that does the kimchi and stuff like that, to where it's partially fermented, a lot of fermented foods. That's fun. I love sauerkraut.
These videos where, did they invent that genre of video where it's like the overhead camera and they've got clear glass bowls and pre-measured ingredients and they combine it and fast forward it, and it's like, I could sit there and watch those all day. It's like hypnotic, you know?
If they didn't invent them, they certainly are the reason they're so popular. I think they've capitalized on it regardless, but
they've done well with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's got to go back to like the 1960s and the old, you know, the Cajun cook and those kind of folks, right? With the overhead cameras and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee. See, Better Homes and Gardens. So this one's it's a magazine that's kind of expanded to online, and they just put a lot of stuff online. And I didn't find an app for this one, which is weird because they're huge and they're doing all sorts of things. They might well have one on Apple, but Better Homes and Gardens, they've got some stuff. Ball. I love canning because you can can the weirdest stuff, and like if you like pickling is a lot of fun, because you can end up with jalapeno stuff with normal pickles and cherry stuff with jalapenos. And then you don't label things. Then later on you go back and you find it and you go, I got no idea what this is. It's probably horrible. Let's open it. That's just the way I grew up. And this last year I busted my pressure canner. So, you know, we were stuck at home and I was doing all this planting, and I've got no pressure cooker. I've got no idea what I'm going to do as soon as my, you know, things start growing too much. But I'll probably just start tossing them at my neighbors. Take it. But Ball, they've got a freshpreserving.com and also ballhomecanning.com recipes as far as the web pages. They've got 500 recipes on there. They're on their 37th edition. 37 years. So, Hungry Girl, this one, my little sister liked this one. And so she's all about the guilt-free eating, and then the low calories and the soy and so there's an option out there for folks that enjoy that kind of eating too. Apparently the 13 different best-selling cookbooks. So that's a pretty big market. Million daily email subscribers, 650K monthly unique visitors, from 2 million monthly page views. So a lot of people out there really like Hungry Girl.
I've used a few of them.
Yeah.
I kind of try to oscillate between being healthy every once in a while and just using copious amounts of butter other times. So
very nice. Yeah, we'll have like a day or two worth of dieting every once in a while just to try. This will be the time when it finally sets and finally works. Nah, shut your mouth. Original recipes and hilarious insights from award-winning recipe creator and food and drink writer Mandy Rivers. See, I've got this little video kind of stuck over half my screen. But so this one is all about Mandy Rivers and the things that she's done, and kind of Southern cooking, but all things barbecue. Take your barbecue to the next level of gourmet. So these people, they get all scientific about their barbecue. I mean, we're talking about buying specialty sensors that report humidity and everything inside the grill to your cell phone and everything, and measuring inside the meat, inside the cooker. It's next level stuff. That's not something I really get into, but I can appreciate the pictures of the dads that spend their time showing each other, you know, this is what I did this weekend.
yeah.
So
Is this
Yeah.
the barbecue shop in Delano and in Wichita?
Is it the
Yeah.
same? Is the site from them too? Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say it's the
with-
same name.
the sauce is the thing where they have, but yeah.
So this is a local one. all things
Fairly.
considered.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Garnish plate. So this one's all about you got the Instapot and the air fryers, and once again led by one person doing their persona thing with the Jennifer. And um, I took my Instapot camping. I got it gave it as a gift to my wife. I really didn't do a whole lot. We really didn't as a family do much with it till I took it camping. This thing is a hero because we were doing like it was early spring, so it was still like ice in the lake, and so we just kind of set it out there. We had boiling water all the time. We did a stew for lunch, and this thing was a champ. And we go out with a pop-up camper, so we always have the electricity and everything. I've got teenage daughters, and we're all wimpy. So at this point, I grew up with the Boy Scouts and the tents, and since then, that's fine. They can do that. That's great.
This sounds like a good one. I'm all about kitchen gadgets. I've got an Instant Pot and an air fryer and a sous vide thing. You know, I like the gadgets. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
the Instant Pot I was excited about just because, you know, my mother-in-law and my grandmother, like they all love just using pressure cookers, but that's always scared the heck out of me to actually use them. And so for some reason, the Instant Pot doesn't seem as scary. Like, I'm sure it's just as scary, but it doesn't seem as scary.
sit there and you hit the buttons, and it's all sealed in there, nice and good,
Yeah.
solid mounting brackets, and yeah, I haven't managed to blow it up yet. I tried some canning in it.
Oh, yeah.
It's good for the heat and the boiling. It's not so much for the pressure.
Hmm.
Doesn't go so high, but that's been my experience. But what else I was going? I don't remember what I was going to say there. Crock pot recipes. In the winter, we're always using a crock pot. I mean, Sunday coming back from church and the whole house just open up that front door, goes blows you over with the smell.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we love to do. Because I mean, when this all started, I helped a friend and we butchered a steer. Not good meat, not great at all. We ground it up for burgers, but you know what is good? Using that in a crock pot for a long period of time. It boils it. Even the cartilage bits, go well with everything else. It just minces real well with the crock pot, chili and stuff like that. So, Taste of Home. They got a test kitchen. Does good. Damn delicious.
This is one of my absolute favorite ones. This gal's got a couple cookbooks, and she started it just kind of messing around with having a blog, and she's been so successful now that this is her full-time job, is doing her website now, which is pretty cool. But yeah, she does not shy away from flavor, which is one of the things I love about her. She's really about, like, if you're going to put cinnamon in something, like, put cinnamon in it. Don't just like sprinkle on the top, type of thing. And but she's also really good about just breaking it down. And, I've not found anything so complicated that I was like, maybe not, like, on her stuff. So, but yeah, definitely not for the dieter. I wouldn't say her website is normally, but it's good.
Nice. Was Taste of Home, was that you? That was me, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the beginning of your recommendations.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Good. I wonder if those. So we're getting to. So speaking of cinnamon, have you had the horchata over at the Point Cafe, the new Mexican place?
No, not yet. I love a horchata.
it has more cinnamon than what I've experienced in the past. I like it because it's cinnamon, not like the cinnamon that I have at home that's been there since my birth, and it tastes more like dust. You can tell that it's fairly recent cinnamon. And so I really liked it. Six Sister stuff there.
Yeah. So I think if I remember right, these gals, like, they don't all actually live in the same place. And so part of their way of keeping in touch as a family is that they write this blog together. And so they'll all just kind of try different things and talk about it in their different posts and stuff. So they also have a lot of good tutorials on YouTube. So I like people sometimes, get very intimidated by cooking if they don't do it too often. And I think sometimes the YouTube thing makes you feel a little more comfortable just figuring it out. That's one thing for me.
Pause and rewind. Pause. And
Yes. That was the first time I ever made homemade pretzels. Like, I think I rewound a video like 17 times trying to figure out exactly how that knot thing actually worked and stuck together. So, but yeah, they're pretty down home type cooking for, they don't get too fancy. So it's really easy to find all the ingredients and actually accomplish whatever they've got on the site. So I really like that one.
the different sisters have kind of their specialties.
Yeah, I mean, and there, it's, sometimes there's a little bit of interaction and, too, and they look like they really enjoy each other too. So yeah, it's kind of fun just to have like that many different perspectives, I think, on one site instead of just having that one, one chef, one home cook that's giving you everything. You're getting a perspective from a lot of different people.
Nice.
Yeah.
So about the pretzel bread.
Yeah.
So the thing that I didn't quite get with pretzels is it raises, right? You got to have a special kind of a yeast.
So the ones I make, I didn't have to do the raising. I often will find things that either the yeast just goes in and then I can immediately bake it, or it doesn't need it at all because I'm lazy and I don't like waiting on bread that much.
Pretzel bread without yeast, though?
I'm trying to remember if this one, I think it has yeast in it, but you don't have to actually wait for it to do anything. So it's pretty, but yeah, I've done those several times, and the fun part is just, boiling them in the baking soda water and fishing them out of there, and then hoping they're still in good enough shape to go in the oven.
Yeah, because it could just turn like sloppy, right?
Yeah, you have to, you have to pay attention. It's not one of those set it and forget it type things. You have to throw it in and kind of really count down the seconds and then pull them out pretty quick. So
not something you put in the Instapot then.
no, I don't think so. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if there's a pretzel recipe for an Instapot. Who knows? Like, I've made homemade bread in my crock pot before. So, I mean, there's all kinds of weird things you can do that you shouldn't be able to do, I think. So.
Did you actually cook the bread in the crock pot?
Yep. You
cool.
kneaded the dough. It was a rosemary bread. So it had the fresh herbs in it, and I kneaded it and threw in some parchment paper, put the bread in, and it just baked right there in the crock pot. It was kind of cool. So
I had a bread machine once where it stopped heating correctly. So I would put the mix into the bread machine and then I'd pull it out and put it in the oven. So there'd be something like that. Try it with the crock pot instead.
Yeah.
Something for me to try next time. Sally, baking addiction?
Yes. So as the name suggests, she's all about baking, and she really likes doing stuff from scratch. So if that's your bag, like it depends on my mood whether I'm using a cake mix or something as my base, or if I'm running all the way from the base ingredients. But her pictures are always really pretty and cute, and so it's nice. It's fun to look at too, because she does nice things. But I also liked that her website has a lot of gluten-free stuff or vegetarian or vegan. So it's not, if you have dietary restrictions, that's also a good place to go. For me, we have some friends that are gluten-free, and so flour I go through like crazy. So I have to really try to be gluten-free when I bake. And so I like sites like this where I can look something up and actually make something other people can eat too. So
my youngest daughter came down with allergies and things like that. And they tried, the doctors all said, go gluten-free. And so I spent probably 4 months going shopping and buying all of these different types of pre-mixed kind of things and trying to cook gluten-free, and absolutely none of it was good. It was all junk. But I can appreciate somebody that actually took the time to learn how to do this right, because that's rough stuff.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of, the ingredients just don't behave like you expect them to with the gluten stuff. So it's
because at the same time I couldn't use eggs, and and so I had to use the powdered eggs with the gluten-free stuff, and just life was really difficult.
Yes.
But fortunately, it was one of those things where she just kind of has to go on a fast every once in a while, and then her system resets, and so Yeah, I just have a rough time usually around the holidays for some reason. She has to do her resets, but same daughter over COVID. She loves those pre-brownie mixes. They're like that giant from Walmart, and she'll make those like every day of the week. And so my thing was having to go and buy as many of those every time I visit, you know, and come home with my mask and just a shopping cart full of brownie mixes.
It's a staple. You have to have it.
Yeah, she can't do without it, and I'm fine with giving them to her because sometimes there's brownies left over when I get home. Sometimes.
Yeah, and I think this is one of my last ones that I added. If you've never listened to the Splendid Table radio show, it's on Minnesota Public Radio, and they play it here locally too on the public radio stations. And one of the things I love about it is that they do a lot about history and origin of different recipes. There's many of the recipes they talk about I am intensely intimidated by, and I've not tried a ton of them because it makes me nervous because they're just so, gourmet or specialty that it's not necessarily always something that I'm feeling confident about. But I love they will explore all kinds of different cultures and genres of things, and it's fun to listen to even if you aren't a cook. But yeah, they did an entire episode on cocktails one time, and so I was mixing up stuff, making from scratch cherry things, and I was really enjoying that. So it's fun to listen, and their website's really good too, to be able to find out all the stuff that they've talked about in the past. So you don't have to try to scribble it down while you're listening to it on the radio.
So Minnesota. So is that like the female Minnesota version of the Click and Clack Brothers with the auto repair guys?
It's a little different. It's they're not quite as loud, and they don't. The current host, he does not have near the laugh that Click and Clack has. So
yeah, but I guess I haven't listened to it that much with the new host. I listened to it a lot when it was Lynn Rosetto Casper, and she just they would just, her and her guests would just get into these sort of rhapsodic conversations.
Yes.
That you could tell they were really passionate about food. So I'm sure Francis Lamb is great too. I haven't heard him. I need to. When does it air on NPR? It's a weekend, right?
It's on the weekend, but yeah, I don't remember what time it's normally on. I normally just kind of catch it randomly sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, Splendid Table, I love this.
I think if you go to this website, you can probably listen to any of the episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and they'll do stuff where people call in and say, this is the ingredient I have, what can I make? And it's just amazing to listen to the host just rattle off like an entire recipe off the top of their head. And I aspire to be so great one day that I can do something like that for someone. I am not there.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I think oh,
I did. I threw a shameless plug in for the, the paper, but yeah, we actually just launched my site not too long ago. But I've got every column that I've written, all of 2019 and all of 2020 are up there, and about half of 2018, and I'm just working my way backwards. So if somebody misses something in an issue, or they remember that at some point I wrote about something, they might be able to find it. Every once in a while I get an email and they'll say, I remember years ago you wrote about whatever, and I have to go try to figure it out. So this will help, hopefully.
Yeah. Before I started working at Newton Public Library last October, I was at the Times Sentinel, which started running Lindseys' column, and we would get people calling, saying trying to locate a recipe that we ran weeks ago or something, and we knew flipping through the papers. Of course, we want to help people find it,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think I emailed you a couple times saying, hey, can you help us? And at the library too, people will contact us with a reference question trying to locate a recipe that you ran in the Newton Now, Lindsay, and we go back and find it for them. So I bet you hear from people all the time that they tried your recipe and they liked it or didn't like it or something, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've got several people that they're religious about, they go through and they try almost everything, which I think is really fun. So it puts an onus on me to make sure I'm picking good stuff, because I've definitely had some fails that did not make it into the paper. And I don't foist those onto people. Worst one being a homemade Tootsie Roll recipe that
Ooh.
it ended up being probably a better fake dog poo recipe than anything. Like that's what it was consistency wise. So that did not make it in.
There's a place in the world for that, I'm sure.
There is. I didn't figure my readers are maybe in the group of people, that demographic that were looking for a good fake, edible dog poo, but you never know, I guess.
I've got teenage daughters. That's one of my favorite things in the world, is to creep them out and discuss them. It's great. You find their favorite singer and you say their name wrong. That's the kind of dad I am right there. But so on spiceupkitchen.net, is it searchable? So
Yes.
Somebody type in dump cake and find all your. There you go.
Yeah.
That'll help things in future.
Yes. Yeah, I'm still, that's my evening project. I just sit and upload stuff to my website all the time. So
I went to it here. It's a really pretty website. Look at all these great
Thank you.
pictures, and so check spiceupkitchen.net. I'm just hearing about it, so very cool. Yeah, I will go out.
And I try to do my food puns in there, which is probably mostly annoying, but I still throw them in. So
How do you come up with a food pun every week? That's a good question.
it is, it is one of my weird skills that I have to pun, that there's no other practical application but for this, I think. So
Do you have a favorite food pun that you've ever come up with? Or one
gosh, now you're putting me on the spot. I don't know. I think they all make me laugh every time. Like, it's the whole newsroom, when they start looking at it, they're like, oh, why? And I'm just cracking up in the corner. So
Yeah, and I remember, well, of course, I remember, putting them, when I was laying out pages at Time Sentinel, they were always good for a laugh. I think there were a couple when you actually got two puns into one headline, and that was
that's the gold standard right there. That's, if you can you can get them both in there, then that's, yeah. No, it's hard, especially if I had one, I think, month where I bought a ton of cherries, and so I did an entire month of cherry recipes, and it was hard to come up with 3 or 4 different cherry puns every week. So I finally managed it, but
cool.
How did you get cherries to last an entire month? Did you freeze them?
well, no, I made a bunch of stuff kind of back to back, and then I broke it up over the course of the month, putting the recipes in then. So
I bet you can can them, right? You can cherries, probably. Yeah. And
Maraschino cherries.
You can can cherries and then use them for cherry pie filling. I would guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I guess
I don't know how to make cherries last that long. So
I have a question, and of course, if anybody's watching out in Facebook land, you feel free to type a question. We'd love to hear from you. But I have a question. I look at recipes and they say, oh, it's like 15 minutes prep time and then it's 30 minutes cook time or whatever. But for me, I always look at the recipe list and then I'm like, this is going to take me way longer than that just to find all the ingredients. So I wonder, how do you handle shopping? Like, what stuff do you keep on hand all the time and what stuff do you go out and buy for a particular recipe?
I mean, I do a lot of baking. So for me, like, there's always a full thing of flour in my pantry, and then there's always a backup flour in my freezer. So I normally have anything that you would consider maybe that staple. So for me, it's, a lot of the, I always have vanilla, I always have sugar and brown sugar, that kind of stuff. And like, I'll buy, especially if they're on sale, like I'll have chocolate chips just in the freezer so that they're ready. And the nice thing about keeping them in the freezer is then when you put them in the cookies, like, it depends on your preferences, but if you don't want them to just puddle, they tend to kind of keep their shape a little bit better when you bake them then. So, and also if you're desperate, it's a really good snack to eat frozen chocolate chips.
The white coating around the chocolate when you put them in the freezer, though?
Sometimes, but I mean, once you bake them, it doesn't, so you can't tell that you had a little bit of, I mean, if you leave them in there too long, obviously but yeah, I'll buy, if I find nuts on sale, those go great in the freezer, and I keep those on hand too, for stuff. But yeah, and then as far as like for savory cooking, I normally always have cream of mushroom and tomato soup that I can grab, and variety of pastas stocked away so that I can do that too.
And broths. Do you buy the
do I-
canned broth, or do you actually make your own broth?
I've both. So here lately, what we've been doing is if we have a recipe where I need to have like some shredded chicken, we'll go buy a rotisserie chicken, debone it, and then we'll make broth out of the carcass. So you're getting all the goodie out of it, and then we can put that in the freezer too. So it kind of depends on what I'm doing, but a lot of times will just buy it too, because when you're busy, you can feel guilty about it, but you don't have to.
We've been doing a lot of ramen, so the ramen broth in the same containers, way easy.
Yeah.
I wonder have you had, the recipes that you try every week, have you ever done one that you were skeptical that you were skeptical that whether it would work or not, and then it turned out that it actually did work?
Yeah. All the time. I'm always nervous. Like I'm constantly not sure how something is going to turn out. But the one that pops in the fastest when you say that is, I found a recipe to do homemade, like ricotta cheese. And they claimed you could use skim milk, which is what I had on hand. So I, did all the steps and bottle, and it worked. I ended up making, stuff out of my homemade ricotta. I don't know if it was worth the work. I think it might be easier just to buy ricotta, but yeah, I was intensely skeptical that was ever going to actually turn out. That I did not think that was going to work, but I always try something once. It's kind of, Joey will come home sometimes and the whole kitchen will be destroyed and I've done something weird.
And it smells like turned butter, right? Or turned bad milk.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, to me, it didn't bother me, the smell of it, but I did not consult my roommate, my husband, but I'm sure he probably has a different story.
Because when you're doing that, you're getting very much, not a lot of product out of a whole lot of skim milk, right?
Right. And I actually ended up saving the whey, and I made, you can use that in the same type of recipes that you would use buttermilk. And so I ended up making some pancakes out of it, and it was real good. So.
Score.
I've been wanting to have you ever made a Dutch baby pancake?
Yes.
I've been wanting to do that because it sounds like it's pretty easy and you get something pretty cool.
It is. And it just, all of a sudden it's just puffing up and it's really cool. Yeah. That's one of those things that makes you feel like a real chef, because it wasn't that hard, but you look super fancy. And those are my favorite types of recipes, where afterwards I can pretend like I'm really good at this.
Well, Nathan, did you have more? Were we at the end of your PowerPoint or no?
Good ass. Yeah, I think we're done.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, is there anything else we should, what are you working on for your column? Like, or tell us what's the recipe in today's paper, and then what are you working on for next time?
So today's paper was a rhubarb cake. It's actually one of my grandma's recipes that she used to make us long ago. So my Amish grandma. So if that, I don't know, that apparently gives people a lot of street cred if they wore a bonnet at one point. But it's really good. So for me, like, I'm not a huge rhubarb fan, but my parents have a huge garden of it in their backyard. This cake, it uses a German chocolate style frosting. So the coconut and the nuts and the sugar, of course. And so it's a lot sweeter, so for me, it takes all of the sting of the sourness of the rhubarb out of it and makes it a little sweeter with some cinnamon. And I really like it. So I wasn't as scared of it as I am of like a rhubarb pie, which normally I avoid because I'm not really a big tart fan. But then coming up, I just made a big batch of bright pink cookies for my 2-year-old niece, who we got together for a barbecue, and I asked her what she wanted me to bring, and she said I needed to bring Pinkalicious. And I said, well, what is Pinkalicious? And she said it's pink cookies. So she got pink cookies. And they were really good. They had cream cheese and butter in them, so they're great.
So for rhubarb, did you say you won't rue this barb?
I said something about, I think it was this cake really raises the barb.
Oh yeah, there. Oh, that's better than mine. Yeah.
No, you get points. You get pun points.
Cool. Well, I guess you have anybody else have more to say, or we're ready to wrap it up here?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, Lindseys' website again, it's spiceupkitchen.net. Check that out. And the PowerPoint, Nathan went through some of it pretty quick. That's going to be posted on the State Library website. I'll also go ahead and go through the PowerPoint and make a blog post with all the links and get that posted tomorrow, so that people, if you want to go back and reference or just click on some of these sites, a lot to explore here. And yeah, it's amazing, you know. Of course, even though there are literally millions of recipes on the internet, the cookbooks at the library are some of our most, it's basically our most popular nonfiction section. People check them out constantly. So, and those are available. You know, you can, I might do a little thing to show you how to search on our catalog for specifically cookbooks, and just, we've got a lot of stuff, a lot of resources. So yeah. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and turn off the live stream here. Thanks everybody for watching. Goodbye. All right, that's done. Live stream gone. So thank you guys,
Yeah.
and I'll